reports coming out in the international media that the Pakistan armed forces had used artillery, fighter aircraft and helicopter gunships on a hapless population, an innocent population in Balochistan. They could not get to the rebels, so they took out their frustration on the common innocent Baloch. Now, we are going to have this very interesting discussion today about the possible freedom of Balochistan, about the rights, the human rights of the Baloch people, and how these human rights have been trampled upon for more than 7 decades by the Pakistani deep state, the Pakistani establishment, and specifically the Pakistan Army. I have a very special guest with me today, Rashid Ahmed Baloch. He's member of the National Council of Free Balochistan Movement. Rashid Saab, a warm welcome to our show, sir.
Thank you.
Rashid Saab, my first question to you is, recent reports about the Pakistan Army using helicopter gunships to kill Baloch people. Then we have also heard about them taking Baloch people up in the helicopters and throwing them, and using artillery, using heavy weapons, killing innocent people, disappearances, maiming. How much of all this is actually true that comes out? How much of it is true? You're a Baloch, please tell us.
Thank you, Major Gauraw, Arya Saab, for inviting me and for highlighting the issue of Balochistan. Actually, this situation or this human rights violation is started, and actually since the Pakistan occupied Balochistan in 1948, Pakistan has been committing war crimes, genocide, and tortures of Baloch. If I tell you in briefly, in 1948, when Pakistan attacked, Baloch resisted against Pakistan's occupation. In 1960s, Baloch resisted against Pakistan's occupation. In 1970s, Baloch resisted against Pakistan occupation. Until now, Balochs are resisting. So actually, recently, I don't go to the history. Recently, Pakistan has started a military operation in the area of Arnai, which is a district of Balochistan. The areas where the operation is underway, the areas are known Sangan and Dongan and Koryak and Bijikor and Breli. These are the areas. Besides these, also another district which is named as Kharan, and also in Makkuran. The operation is still underway. In Sangan area of Arnai, before some days, Pakistan Army started an operation in which I think hundreds of infantry, Pakistan military infantry, they are involved. Besides that, 6 helicopters are involved. Even with gunship helicopters, Pakistani jet aircrafts. I myself have seen the Pakistani jet aircrafts taking part in the war, which is between Balochistan and Pakistan. They have taken part. Pakistan is using gunship helicopters, artilleries, long-range arms they're using. So in Sangan area of Arnai, they have cordoned off the area. They have seized the area. In that area, before 2 weeks, they killed 6 people. Among those, one is Moran Mari, another is Murid Mari, another is Amdan Mari, and 3 others. They were killed, and their family was abducted by Pakistan Army, and they were transferred to Pakistani military camp in Arnai. The people they were transferred, they include women and children. I tell you, the family, they belong to the Amo Mari family. The person they were whose family was abducted is called Amo Mari. As all family, including children and women, they were transferred to Pakistani army camp in Arnai. Besides this, 50 people in the same area, because it's a mountainous area, 50 people have been encaged. They include women, children, elderly people, even disabled people. All the area is cordoned off. 6 helicopters, including jet aircrafts, they've been taking part in this operation. There is no media available.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
There is a media blackout in Balochistan. Even North Waziristan, there is a media blackout. Rashid Sab, my next question to you is regarding the China-Pakistan economic corridor. And then I have a lot of questions, including the internationalization of the Baloch issue. But first, I want to come to the China-Pakistan economic corridor, Rashid Sab. In this CPAC corridor, I have spoken to a lot of Baloch friends. And they say that the mineral wealth of Balochistan, and everybody gives the example of the Sui gas fields. He says, we don't have cooking gas in our houses, but in Pakistani Punjab, they have unlimited gas. We have nothing. Why are the Baloch protesting against CPAC? Because the Chinese are saying that when the CPAC comes, it will give job opportunities. The entire area will become rich, so to say. Pakistan will progress. Balochistan will progress. What is the truth of CPAC?
Major sir, the truth of CPAC is that it's a coalition of Pakistan and China to loot out and to plunder the resources of Balochistan. Actually, the cause of Balochistan, the resistance in Balochistan is not only the minerals, the resources. If we see in historical perspective, Balochistan has been in a situation of resistance. We have been defending our land against the foreign aggressions. We have never attacked other countries. We have never been part of the armies to attack other countries. Because Balochistan is located in such an area where always the world powers, even it can be the at Greek time, it can be the Alexander the Great, it can be the Arab conquerors or the attackers, it can be the English people, the Britain. So we have been defending our motherland centuries ago. So actually, the truth in Pakistan economic corridor is that they are going to change the population, Balochistan population in Gwadar and Makran demographically. They have selected some areas. In Panjgur, they have selected an area. In Turbat Kesh, they have selected an area. In Gwadar, that is the hub of economic corridor. They are going to bring here millions of Chinese.
Rashid, I wanted to ask you about the forceful annexation of Balochistan. I spoke to so many senior Baloch leaders and Baloch journalists, even inside Balochistan in UK, Germany, etc., France. They're everywhere. But even inside Balochistan, when I speak to them, all of them say that we were an independent nation. We were a proud independent nation, and Pakistan, they say that even the treaty that was signed between the Khan of Kalat and the Pakistanis, Khan of Kalat was cheated by the Pakistanis, that is what they say. That, there was no witness signature, and there are so many things that they say. I want to hear from you, what is the truth about this? The invasion happened, Balochistan was taken by force, but there was also cheating and treachery on part of Pakistan, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Not only cheating, but it was completely aggression against the sovereignty and independence of Balochistan. I tell you the truth that on 18th March, Pakistan occupied the districts of Balochistan. They included Lasbela, Makran, Kharan. Actually, according to international law, no country is allowed to annex the districts of another country. But on 18th March, Pakistan annexed these districts of Balochistan. At this time, Balochistan was already an independent country on 11th August 1947 from Britain. On 5th of March, Pakistan deployed its army in all, mostly in coastal areas that includes Lasbela and Makran area in Balochistan. On 27th of March, Pakistan deployed its army in the capital of Balochistan, which is called Kalat state. 27th of March. In the night of 27th March, there are two generals of Pakistan. One is Colonel Gulzar, and another is Major General Akbar Shah. Major General Akbar Shah wrote an article in Dawn in 1960, 14 August. He said that I was instructed by Mandali Jinnah, the Governor General of Pakistan, to attack the capital of Balochistan. So he says that we were told by Governor General of Pakistan, Mandali Jinnah, to not attack in the daylight, to attack in the night times, so that the world cannot get the notice or cannot notice the aggression on Balochistan. So he says, on the 27th of March, we attacked the capital of Balochistan. And so that's why I explain it, because in the Manchurian crisis, at the time of League of Nations, when Japan attacked Manchuria, so the world community, they never recognized it, that you are not allowed to do aggression against the sovereignty of another countries.
No, absolutely. Now, I want to ask you, what does the international law say about it? You touched upon it very briefly, but I'd like you to elaborate, sir. International law, and what about the UN Charter? I'd like to get your views on both these topics, please.
Yeah, the international law says from on the 27th of March, when they attacked the capital of Balochistan, from there they dragged the king of Balochistan. They dragged the king of Balochistan to Karachi. And this is also mentioned in the book of Selig Eresan, who is an American think tank, who has written a book on the Balochistan in the shadow of Afghanistan. So the Khan of Kalat on the 27th of March, he was dragged to Karachi, where he was forced to write or to sign the instrument of a merger or an annexation. One thing I want to clear here, the UN Convention, which was signed in Vienna in 1965, I think, if I remember, their Article 51 says that in any international treaty where coercion and force is used, that is invalid. Again, in Article 52, the Vienna Convention says that if the coercion and force is used in any international treaty which is against the international law and the UN charter, that treaty is void. What is UN Charter and international law? Article 2 force, which is the use of force, which is the main, you can say, backbone of the UN Charter. The world politics is circulating around this Article 2.4. UN says that in Article 2.4 that all the countries are forbidden. This article says they are not allowed to use aggression and force.
Now, I keep on seeing these images on social media, women. And this is a very emotional thing. I mean, to anybody, whether I'm not from Balochistan, but anybody who sees these images, can get very unsettled, get very upset, and, get very rattled when you see these images of these elderly women sitting outside the Quetta Press Club, holding photographs of their loved ones and saying that, can you at least please tell me if my son is alive or dead? And if he is dead, can you tell me where he is buried so I can go and say prayers for him? Now, this is something which is happening in this century, this day and age, in the time of social media. Your organization, the National Council of Free Balochistan Movement, as it's called, what steps is it taking to highlight to the world the atrocities inflicted by the Pakistani armed forces and the Pakistani army on these poor Baloch people? I mean, these people they're being butchered, they're being massacred by the Pakistani state.
Yes, Major Saab, actually it is not happening now. It has been happening since the resistance started against the Pakistan occupation. I tell you one thing, in 1960, when the Baloch resistance was led by General Sherob Murray and also Nawab Khairbakhsh Murray, at this time, I tell you the truth, if you believe, they abducted our young girls and they sold them in Lahore. They sold them for in the notorious markets. Our people, our elderly people, they gathered and they tried to again buy them, who were sold in Lahore in the notorious markets. They again tried to buy them and bring them back, and somehow they became successful. But some people they could not buy. Now I tell you recently that the mother of Jahazib Kambarani, who was protesting in Islamabad against the illegal abduction of her son, she became unconscious during the protest. Actually, it is happening since the occupation of Balochistan, not now. Now it is according due to the social media, it is internationalized a bit. But Free Balochistan movement, which you asked that what is the plan and what Free Balochistan movement is doing. Free Balochistan movement is a political party which is working for the independence of Balochistan and restoration for the independence of Balochistan. Actually, Free Balochistan movement, though it is an entity, but it has not been recognized by the international community. That's why I always ask our neighbor India that you are a big power. You have to bring our issue. You have to internationalize our issue in the international forums.
No, Rashid Sahab, you're absolutely correct. Now, I wanted to ask you one more question, and I'm sorry for interrupting you. My question to you is, sir, that we see a lot of things going on in Pakistan. I'll just move away from Balochistan. Now, there is a member of the National Assembly called Ali Wazir, and I think a day back he completed 2 months in prison. How is it possible that a sitting member of the National Assembly of Pakistan can be taken away by the agencies and put in a prison in Karachi, and there is no accounting for it? I mean, it is happening not just to the Baloch. Now it has started happening to the Pashtun also. You look at the Pashtun Tahafuz movement, sir. Pashtun Tahafuz movement it's a purely peaceful movement. They are not saying anything to anybody, but people, we call them member of parliaments in India, MPs. And MPs have certain privileges in India. You cannot arrest a member of parliament just like that, But here, a black van or a black Vigo would go with ISI people. They lifted Ali Wazir and they took him. How is this possible? Is it absolutely a basket case in terms of there being no human rights in Pakistan? Balochistan is, of course, the worst that Pakistan can do. But it's happening in other places also. Would you like to comment upon what is happening with the Pashtuns?
The state which is producing terrorism worldwide, which is a machine for the production of the terrorism. یہ تو انٹرنیشنل لا کو کبھی مانتا ہی نہیں ہے. کبھی کشمیر میں اپنے دہشت گردوں کو بیچتا ہے تاکہ ادھر آ کے اٹیک کرے, کبھی بمبئی میں اٹیک کرتا ہے, کبھی ابھی تو ریسنٹلی میں نے سنا ہے کہ اس نے تو آذربائیجان میں بھی اپنے بندے بھیجے ہیں, جو دوسرے ممالک جو آذربائیجان کے خلاف جنگ لڑ رہا ہے اس کے خلاف بھی اس نے اپنے بندے بھیجے. تو یہ تو انٹرنیشنلی, میں تو کہتا ہوں کہ یو این نے شاید ہی کچھ ایکسیپشنل کلاز لائیں اپنے چارٹر میں جن میں پاکستان ہے کہ all the states are bound by these laws except پاکستان. ایسا ہی ہے, دیکھنے میں بھی ایسا ہی لگتا ہے. تو میں یہ کہتا ہوں کہ یہ ایک دہشت گرد اسٹیٹ, ایک وحشی ریاست, جو کہ ابھی علی وزیر کی میں بات کرتا ہوں, سوری, وہ تو الیکٹڈ ایم این اے ہے. ابھی یہ علی جو پشتون ہیں ان کو ابھی سے مار نہیں رہے ہیں, خدائی خدمتگار ہیں
جی
جو باچا خان کے فالوورز تھے.
فرنٹیئر گاندھی, فرنٹیئر گاندھی بولتے ہیں باچا خان کو.
ایگزیکٹلی, ان کو انہوں نے 1950s میں مارے. پھر ان کو کیا کیا میجر صاحب کہ ان کے بندوں کو مارے, 800 کے قریب بندے انہوں نے, they killed them indiscriminately. پھر کیا ہوا, ان کی جو لاشیں تھی, جو پختون تھے, انہوں نے کہا کہ ہماری لاشیں دے دو. پاکستان آرمی نے کہا کہ میں آپ کی لاشیں آپ کو نہیں دے دوں گا, مجھے 50 روپے دے دو پر پرسن. انہوں نے کہا وہ کیوں؟ انہوں نے کہا کہ جو ہم نے گولی استعمال کیا ہے آپ کے ہر ایک بندے پر, وہ پر بلٹ کاسٹ 50 روپیز. جو ہم نے گولی استعمال کیا ہے وہ 50 روپے ہمیں دے دو, پھر اپنی لاش لے کے جاؤ. پشتون کے ساتھ یہ آپ سے نہیں ہو رہا ہے. یہ تو جب سے انہوں نے آکوپائی کیا جو خیبر پختونخوا ہے, انہوں نے تب سے یہ شروع کیا. لیکن آج کل پختونخوا میں ایک لیڈرشپ ابھری ہے, پی ٹی ایم کے ایک پارٹی, منظور پشتین اور اس کے جو باقی دوست ہیں. I welcome it. It's a very یہ مطلب جو ہم دیکھ رہے تھے اور جو ہم مانگ رہے تھے کہ وہ ہو جائے, وہ ابھی ہو رہے ہیں. کہ پشتون میں ابھی ایک اویئرنیس آ رہا ہے, جو فلسفی ہے, جو نظریہ ہے باچا خان کی, اس کو یہ آگے لے کے جا رہے ہیں.
جی رشید احمد بلوچ صاحب, my last question to you, what is your message for the people of Balochistan, کیونکہ وہ لوگ بلوچ بھائی بہن بھی سن رہے ہوں گے آپ کا میسج یہ یوٹیوب کے ذریعے اور سوشل میڈیا کے ذریعے پاکستان میں میسج آپ کا جائے گا. آپ ان کو کیا کہنا چاہتے ہیں؟ کیونکہ ان لوگوں کو ایسا لگتا ہے کہ جیسے صبح آ نہیں رہی ہے, ان کو لگ رہا ہے کہ رات بہت لمبی جا چکی ہے رات, تو کبھی کبھی انسان نا امید ہو جاتا ہے. واٹ از یور میسج ٹو دی بلوچ پیپل؟
جی میجر صاحب, ایسا ہے کہ کوئی گھر بنانے میں وقت لگے گا تو ملک بنانے میں ضرور وقت لگے گا. تو میں یہ کہوں گا کہ ہم ایک ملک کی آزادی کو بحال کرنے کے لیے لڑ رہے ہیں, تو اس کے لیے قربانی بھی دینا ہوگا, اس کے لیے برداشت بھی کرنا ہوگا. جب رشیا جیسے پاورفل کنٹری ڈیزالو ہو سکتے ہیں, یوگوسلاویا جو ایک پاورفل کنٹری تھا دیٹ could dissolve, جو رشیا نے جو باقی بالٹک اسٹیٹس کو اپنے انڈر کالونائز کیا تھا وہ آزاد ہو گئے. ابھی میں کہتا ہوں کہ جب رشیا جیسے پاورفل کنٹریز اپنے کنٹرول کو کالونی پہ برقرار نہیں رکھ سکے تو پاکستان اس کے سامنے کیا چیز ہے. پاکستان میں ابھی سے میں دیکھ رہا ہوں پاکستان از گوئنگ ٹو بالکنائز سون, کیونکہ سندھو دیش نے آزادی کی مانگ کی ہوئی ہے, پشتونوں نے ابھی تک آزادی کی بات نہیں کیا ہے, لیکن مجھے یقین ہے کہ پاکستان اپنے ریپریشنز جاری رکھے گا تو وہ آگے جا کے آزادی کی مانگ کریں گے. بلوچستان کی تو ایک وہ انٹرنیشنل ایشو ہے, سب کو پتا ہے, صرف اس کو انٹرنیشنلائز کرنا ہے باقی ممالک کو کہ وہ ایک کالونی ہے, اس پر قبضہ کیا ہوا ہے. سو بلیو می, پاکستان within some years will balkanize. اس کے لیے کیا کرنا ہوگا؟ صرف ہمیں برداشت کرنا ہوگا, تحمل کے ساتھ آگے جانا ہوگا اور اسٹرگل کرنا ہوگا. ایک ان نیچرل اسٹیٹ کین ناٹ ایگزسٹ ان دا ورلڈ, اس کی تو مثالیں بہت سی ہیں. تو پاکستان سے کیسے آزادی نہیں حاصل کر سکیں گے؟ صرف ہمیں اپنا ہمت برقرار رکھنا ہوگا. we will soon get our independence.
Absolutely, God willing. Rashid Ahmed Baloch Sahab, thank you very much for joining us on Blitzkrieg. Ladies and gentlemen, with Rashid Ahmed Baloch Sahab, who is a member of the National Council of Free Balochistan Movement. They advocate a free Balochistan. We spoke about a lot of topics, and Rashid Sahab told us about the historical perspective, how Balochistan was a free country occupied by force and by treachery by Muhammad Ali Jinnah and the Pakistani army, the kind of human rights violations and disappearances that are continuously happening in Balochistan each and every single day, and what his organization is doing in terms of raising awareness for a free Balochistan. He also touched upon China-Pakistan economic corridor and how Pakistan and China have very clearly colluded to steal the natural resources and steal the freedom of the Baloch people. Thank you very much for joining us.